I realized that I screwed up, so there's probably going to be a part 2 to this. I don't know how to splice these videos and all that. So we got our air supply, and all I did is, I just brought this into a different spot. So I'm going to take my leads. It's hard looking through a phone trying to do this, so give me a sec. Alright, so I'm going to take the leads. And this particular car has a post for the battery. And a spot for the ground. Now, like I said in the one video, you're going to have a little spark because there's not a switch in the circuit. So what you're asking the circuit to do now, or the nichrome wire, which is the circuit, is to become live as soon as you add your power. So don't freak out if you see a little bit of a spark. Now, I'm live right now, so you don't want to I wouldn't go adding air. I would let the can, anyway, you can see it starting to smoke. What I was going to say is that you don't want I put that lid down tight because I know what I'm doing. I just suggest other people leave a little bit, maybe, to give you some relief, but we're not using much pressure. But since you don't have a pressure gauge on here, which you can add one, drill a hole, cheap pressure gauge. Okay, now I'm hooked up. In this case, since I do have that, I'm going to hook that up real quick. Now what I suggest is you leave the power on till you see a little smoke come out of there, okay? So now, let's see if I can hold this. I can't do shit with one hand. Alright, so now what I'm going to do is come down here, and now I'm going to open up the flow some. Now that, that's some decent smoke there, and that's only, quarter of the way open. So what I'll do is, like I said, that's I think that one there is 11 inch. Now, so hose is a little tight up there. So there you go. I have a flashlight there just because it's kind of dark in the garage, but that right there is 11 inches of water. The 13 inches is a little bit more, obviously a little bit more pressure out of there. But that right there is going to do just great for finding, vacuum leak or whatnot. And then this little exhaust cone adapter, which I think would work just fine. You stick your tip in there, and you could smoke your exhaust. That's a funnel, and I've already shoved it in some pipe, and it holds good. So that's basically about it. Now here's the thing. Here's why you would want here, if you put your flow, let's say here on the hose. Now you're going to trap your pressure in the can. You don't want to do that. This paint can ain't made for that. Let me shut this off. This is putting out a lot of smoke. So perfect example is this. I'll show you what would happen. I'm going to block this tip. See? So if you had a pressure gauge on there, as the system fills, the engine or whatnot, it reaches its point where it's completely filled. Now the pressure will start to come back through the line into the can. now we're at a low pressure, so I don't think, you know, at some point if you held this all day, you know, I don't know, it might end up popping the lid or whatnot, but that's why you wouldn't want your flow control up here, because now you're gonna trap your pressure there, whereas you want to do it, you know, before. So let me shut this off, and then disconnect your leads, and you can do one of two things. You could go ahead and, well, figures I don't have it in here. I was going to go ahead and pop the lid. I think you ought to just go ahead and run the system, you know, your air until the smoke's all out, or you could pop your lid. Let me open this garage door. It's a lot of crap to be breathing. So, a couple guys asked, you know, what's the difference between flow and pressure? The pressure is already set, okay? What we're controlling with this is the flow. So you had seen, you know, low flow, it has a little bit of smoke coming out, and then max open, you're going to have everything your pressure has to offer coming out. So, you know, the only other thing, you know, if you wanted to add, and I can't add it, of course I'm going to charge for it, but you could pop a hole in there and put a pressure gauge. And like I said, as your system fills up, the pressure gauge is going to start to rise. And that's going to tell you, hey, you know, you can do a couple things now. You could shut off your pressure, so now you're trapped from here to whatever system you're testing, the engine. And watch your gauge. If your gauge stays steady, that means you don't have a leak, which you should be able to see it with the smoke coming out somewhere. But you could do that as a leak down test. So you're trapping your pressure now from here, the end of the hose, whatever it's in the system, and doing what they call like a leak decay test. But if you don't opt to put a pressure gauge in here and you just plan on using, you know, the cheap smoker for finding leaks, but obviously if you go hooking this up and you think you're going to plug it into something for an hour with no pressure gauge, it's just, I wouldn't do that. So, you know, let's use some common sense and be smart about it. It's a paint can. It's not no thick walled thing with no pressure relief. So even though we're only at low pressure, still got to be smart about it. Now the can does get warm. I didn't put a infrared gun on it to see, but you know, you got a heating element in there, so it's going to get warm. So hopefully this helps. If there's any questions for those who have bought this, you know, let me know. I'm thinking that I covered everything. You know, get it. Make sure you check the wires, not touching the can. And you know, if for whatever reason, I test these before I send them out. If you hook it up and it's not working, check a couple things. You know, your air pressure. Do you hear air coming out of the hose with air hooked up and it open? Or that's if you don't have one of those. And your fuse. And then if you have an ohm meter, throw your leads on it and see what kind of ohm reading you're getting. 0 is going to be short, and OL is going to be open. So anyway, I hope this video helps for some of those who had asked for it. So take care.